Squatting over 200 pounds, but your legs still looking like Johnny Bravo? Or maybe you're just looking for some fitness tips to help improve the range of motion or the form of your squat. This video is for you. Hey, what's up, you guys? IFBB Pro Hafid James here. So in this video, we're going to talk about people trying to work their quads doing squat, but they're probably not doing it optimally. I think once you know the muscle you're trying to work, and we're going to be dealing with squats today, traditional squats, thinking quads, you want to think about, okay, well, what's the best way to work it? And again, we've talked about it before. We're going to talk about it often. Think of the parameters of your workout that doesn't include weight. So when we're working your quads during a squat, what we're trying to do is achieve as much knee flexion as possible. When I say knee flexion, think slamming your hamstrings against your calves. That means you have to give a deep squat. Now, how deep you go is going to be individualized, but what you're trying to do is go as deep as you can. We're going to use moment arms, nothing to complicate things, but moment arms is just ways to show how much load is placed on the muscle during the workout's profile. So when you're at the top position, using that moment arm, that moment arm isn't very big, saying there's not a lot of load on the quad. Yes, you've put weight on the bar, but there's not a lot of load you're actually putting on your quad. Versus when you're at the bottom of a squat, that line's a lot longer. Now this is saying, okay, now there's actual load on the quad. You're actually placing load on the muscle we're trying to work. So when you see people loading it up, and if their goal is trying to grow their quads and they're just doing these quarter reps, once you hit that quarter mark is really where you're probably just starting to feel tension in your quads. I think a good gauge, and again, this is individualized in case there's some mobility issues, but trying to get your knee parallel to your hip. Like that's a nice standard or something you can work your way up to. The deeper you go, the more force you can produce, more metabolic stress, better results. But when you're thinking of just a nice gauge to go for, knee to hip is a good gauge to go for. So sometimes it means you're going to have to drop the weight so you can get deeper. But don't think your results come from you just lifting heavy. Your results come from you challenging and stimulating growth in the muscle. The other thing you want to ensure, if you're working your quads, you want to keep tension on the muscle, you want to have a balanced squat. What I've seen often is, someone might drop down, but if they don't know how to come up, they'll push their hips back as they come up. Kind of looks like a little stripper dance. What you're doing there is when you're pushing those hips back, you're taking that tension off your quads and you're putting it on your hams and glutes. So that's not what we're trying to work. We're trying to bias your quads as much as possible. So you want to have a nice balanced squat. You want to be able to go straight down, thinking butt to ankle, knee over toe. And then what I like to say is drive your chest straight up. If you're thinking chest straight up, your legs have to follow. Versus if your hips just get pushed back, that means now you're placing that tension on the other muscle and then you're kind of just shimmering yourself back up. So that's going to be something else you're going to want to look for. I'm a big fan of you guys recording yourself because you might think you're doing something in your mind, and when you look back at the tape, you're like, oh, okay, I see how I'm hinging my hips back. And then you just want to make sure you're keeping the tension on the quads for as long as possible, making sure they're doing as much work as possible throughout the exercise. So if you've seen any of my videos, and if you haven't, check some of them out. For me, I think an effective workout makes the workout harder and keeps you safer. So when we're dealing about a safe squat, there are certain things you want to look for. I believe in making sure your feet stay flat and balanced. There's a tripod of your foot. I think as you're going down through the squat, you should feel that tripod. As you're pushing up through the squat, you should feel that tripod. You do not want your feet rocking back and forward. That's a very easy way for you to lose balance and hurt yourself. So one of the cues I might give someone if just pushing their feet doesn't work, go barefooted and think like you're grabbing sand on the beach and really feel those 3 areas of your foot anchored down as you're driving up. Another thing you want to be mindful of is avoiding knee valgus. That just means your knees caving in. Now, this can happen for a few reasons. It can happen because maybe the weight's too heavy, or your abductors, your gluteus minimus and medius, that's the side parts of your butt, those aren't just, they're just not strong enough to handle whatever movement you're doing. So you would see this either when the person's descending on their squat and their knees would just cave in. Maybe they don't know the cue to drive their knees out. Or when you're at the bottom of that squat, that first like initial inch on the ascension, that's really when your knees want to cave in the most. Again, well, what you want to think about, keeping that feet flat, driving those knees out, engaging those hip abductors as you come up to make sure you're keeping the tension on your quads and not on your knee. Like one of the reasons I've heard people be worried about, oh, I don't want to squat deep because that's going to mess up your knees. It's very rarely I've seen where that was the issue. It was normally issue with their ankles, ankle mobility, hip abductors weren't strong enough, or the weight was just too heavy. It wasn't a, well, squatting deep was the problem. It was a how you were squatting and the weight you're moving was the problem. And then as always, thinking about your core and posture, making sure that you can stand upright, keeping that neutral spine as you're going down, keeping that core braced. Now, if you want a longer video on just core and bracing, there's other videos on the page. Well, tell me and I can do one more specifically gauged to squats. But you want to know your core is engaged to take that tension off your back, and you're keeping your spine in a nice neutral position. You're not looking for a curve in your back. You want to know torso's locked, spine's locked. You're thinking stand tall, and you're descending down in your squat and coming up with all of that locked and braced for the entire squat, just to make sure you're adding as much protection to your spine as possible. So how would I squat? Now, if you as a new client, there's pretty much 3 basic phases I would go through. Again, changes depending on the individual, but I would want you to know how to do a bodyweight squat first. So when you're doing a bodyweight squat, I want you to think feet flat, knees out, engaging those hip abductors, standing tall, and then sitting down as deep as you can, thinking butt to your ankles. I'll normally have them use their hands lift up as they squat down, just to help keep that chest up, help with that balance. Once they're comfortable with that, they understand that mechanics, they feel the quads doing the work, they're able to keep their core in posture, we will move on to a dumbbell or a goblet squat. The form is the same, but now they're going to hold a dumbbell in their hands, learn to lock those shoulder blades while they're doing a squat, and then everything else stays the same. Feet flat, knees out, think butt to ankle, chest up, and they come up. Once they reach to a certain weight, where I can then put them on a barbell, again, lower half mechanics is going to stay the same. But what you then want to do is make sure you're putting the barbell on your traps, not on the base of your neck, but sitting on your traps as a shelf. And once you're doing there, step back. The cue I would give most of my clients is think like you're bending the bar. Literally think like you're trying to bend that bar over your back. You see, as soon as I do that, what has to happen? I'm engaging those back muscles, and then I'm keeping my chest up, brace my core, and then sit down into the squat, making sure I keep my lats and my back engaged during the whole time, just to give your body more stability, more protection during the squat. Now, with any of these 3, if you want a longer video where I break it down more, leave it in the comments below and I can do that for you. But those are the 3 basic ways how I would just do a general standard squat. If you are brand new or you just notice your mobility needs a lot of work, I would do some assisted elevated squats. You put your heels on something to elevate your heels. It just helps create dorsiflexion, which would help your range of motion. And then as you go through the drills that we'll go through and your quads improve, you can slowly take away the plates and try and do it flat-footed. As your quads get stronger, you can try moving away and doing it unassisted. But to start, again, this is if you're like brand spanking new. Heels on the platform, same, still firm, and then keep everything else the same. Feet flat, knees out. You hold on here, and again, you're thinking butt to ankle. Pull down as deep as you can once your spine stays neutral, and then drive yourself up. Some of the frequently asked questions I would get, how low should I go? Individualize. You just want to think, what is your range of motion? We talked before about core and posture. So I don't want you to go low thinking, well, I got to get my butt to the ground. And then you start arching your back just to go lower. I want you to think about, okay, how deep can I get standing tall, core braced, sitting down and not allowing my posture to change. Now, there's things that you can do to improve your range of motion, which we'll save for the end of the video. But whenever you're thinking about depth, everyone's individualized. You just got to figure out, where can I go for me, where I'm not going to be changing my core and posture just to force myself outside of my own range of motion. Another question people would ask, what about my squat stance? Again, individualized comfort. Now, this has a lot to do with your hip sockets. If you have shallow hip sockets, you are probably easier to get away with a closer stance, and you probably have very good mobility. If you have deeper hip sockets, that means you're probably going to have to take a wider stance, because you trying to stand in close, you're not going to be able to get down as deep. Even for me, I got to go slightly like in line with my shoulders, maybe slightly out. The stance of your feet isn't going to dictate what muscles you're working. Is really what you're doing with your hip. So don't think, wide stance for hamstrings, close stance for quads, because if you don't have the mobility and you just stay close, you're not going to be able to go anywhere. So what you're thinking about, if you're trying to work your quads, knee flexion, knee over toe, butt to ankle. So it doesn't matter what stance you take. It's about what's most comfortable for you, what's going to give you the best range of motion. And then lastly, how much should I be squatting? Don't think about weight. Recent video we put up talking about how heavy you should lift. Weight, in my opinion, should be the least important factor. If you want a longer breakdown, check out the video. You just want to think about, what can I do where I can keep my form intact, feel the right muscles doing the work, and then slowly progress. All you're looking for is slow progression. If you're doing what you should be doing inside and outside of the gym, even if, and this is for me, if I'm able to get one extra rep a week, quality rep, then I'm going in the right direction. I don't need to rush it. Is when you think you got to go up 2 pounds, 5 pounds, 10 pounds every week, where then you start to decrease your range of motion just for the weight. Or at worst, an injury happens. So don't get too caught up in numbers on how much you should be lifting. See where you are, because everyone's different, and then know that you've got your form down, you got your feeling down, and then watch as your body progresses over time. And then you would end up being able to, whatever weight you're actually squatting, you can say, I can actually squat this weight, not just put it on the bar and bounce up and down. So I want to go through a few different things that's going to help with your mobility of your squats. Again, when we're thinking of mobility of the squats, there's a few things we're looking for. You want to improve your ankle mobility, and I do want to give you a drill that you guys can do to help strengthen your hip abductors, and then one that kind of pairs them both together. And this should help just improve your range of motion of your squat. So yeah, you can do it before you squat, but I think with things like this should be part of like your daily life, just general mobility drills. So if you're able to do these every day, you'll see a much faster rate of progression, because your body's getting used to being in these different positions. So I want to go through 3 mobility drills that you guys can add to your program. And again, these are drills that I would try and do every day if possible, just to really help improve your mobility inside and outside of the gym. Now, if you want me to do a routine where you just follow along, just let me know in the comment section. Again, I just want my page to be useful. So you think if I just did a whole program, reps, sets, time, and you just followed along with me, like I said, leave in the comments below and I'll make it happen. So this first one, we're going to deal with your ankle mobility, which is very important for protecting your knee and improving your squat mobility. So I want you to just find a bench or a platform. Keep that foot flat at all times. Push that knee out. And again, we're thinking butt to ankle. And you're trying to sit as deep as you can once you notice your heels are not coming up. So you want to be able to push right in and keep that knee out, think knee over your toe. And then hopefully, even over time, you can grab the bench and really pull into it. You want to try and feel a stretch right down here on the bottom of your ankle and just sit right in it. And I would probably hold that for like a 10 count. Now, sometimes people's ankles are so tight, they'll come here, push forward, and this is as far as they can get. What I would suggest, put it on a slight incline. This is just going to help push your foot back so you'll be able to get a little bit more stretch. Find a position that's comfortable for you. I would start a little higher up and then do that same thing. Feet flat, knees out, and try and push right into it as deep as you can until you feel that stretch on the bottom of your ankle. Try and hold and sit right into it deep. If you're using these to help grow your glutes, you're absolutely wasting your time. But I always recommend you do use them to help strengthen your hip abductors, your gluteus medius, your gluteus minimus. Those are a lot to do with stabilizing and protecting the knee. So what you could do, take this knee and just drive it into the ground. And then with this knee, keeping your feet together, you just want to try and spread that band as much as possible, feeling that glute, the side of your butt, having to stabilize that band and resist it as it comes down, and then push through it again. Slight pause, feeling that contraction, really trying to spread it, and then resist that pull from it coming in, and then pushing out. So this mobility drill is a good combination of the two. We're going to hold on to start, still thinking feet flat, knees out, so you should feel those abductors engaged. And again, we're thinking neutral spine, walk knee over toe, butt to ankle, and you're going to sit as deep as you can. Hopefully over time, you'll be able to sit right down, driving those knees out, and then pushing your butt right to your ankle, and then try and hold this position. And then as you're coming up, still thinking your core, still keep that posture. Walk up slow, drive those knees out, hold. Walk up a little higher, drive those knees out, hold. And right to the top. Then once this becomes easy, what I want you to be able to do, step away from it. Now you can do this again. The next stage will probably be your body weight, and then you can even hold a plate to really force you down, but be able to do the same thing, then hold. And then come up. So that was the last thing for today. Again, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. I hope you learned something you can take into your training to improve it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.